Psalm 100 from the Paleo Hebrew Scriptures. Make a loud noise. Shout for joy unto YAHA'UA, the ever-living. Go to him before his face with a ringing cry of joy. Know him intimately and completely, for he, YAHA'UA, the ever-living, is El-Hayam. He has fashioned us, working by labor to produce us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the small cattle of his pasturing. Go to him, and to his gate with confession, thanksgiving, praise, into his enclosure with hymns of celebration. Cast forth praise unto him, kneel and place a gift before him. Prosper his name. For YAHA'UA is beautiful, kind, upright, fair and agreeable. His hasad, desire and mercy, zeal and kindness, endure unto time of long duration. For as far as the eye can see or perceive, to the edge of the horizon and beyond, and his faithfulness circles from age to age perpetually.
Coming to you from Yorkshire Dales National Park. That's in the north of England, just kind of below Hadrian's Wall, close to Scotland's border. My name is noelhadley, and I'm in a house right now. It's a gorgeous little house, very European. It feels more like I'm in the south of France almost. This little tiny village I'm in. Just arrived here today. These winding cobblestone streets that go around this little stores and inns and pubs and so on and so forth. The house apparently was built, what I can get, they say about 1690. So it's pretty old. A lot of creaky floors, very low ceilings. You get the feeling that hobbits built this house. Now you're not supposed to have like kind of like white light behind you like this. I know that's a naughty no-no in streaming. I'm breaking all the rules right now, which is kind of, my general week-to-week presentation. You can see it's raining out there. Still kind of light out, but let's see if you can see this if I move over. So do you see this? It's all glossy right now, but it's kind of dark right there. That is, you're actually looking out at a cemetery. There's a cemetery right behind me right now. That's actually a stone table. And I have never in my life seen a stone table until today. And there's probably about, 7 of them out there, like literal stone tables. I haven't had the time to search them all out yet. They have inscriptions on them. I don't know if it's like, deeper magic from before the dawn of time. I don't really know what's going on with these stone tables, but here's what's creeping me out right now. So the ground, you can't really tell, but the ground is about 3 feet up from my feet outside. Now, assuming that men are buried 6 feet under, right? It's the magic number. It's the number of man. So if the grass goes about 3 feet up from my feet right now, and they're just right outside this window, like I could reach out maybe if I were Stretch Armstrong, but I could maybe get like a yardstick or something like that and tap them out there, the graves. Not the kind of place you want to, watch a movie like, Night of the Living Dead or something while you're staying here. But I'm just like, how are they like 3 feet deeper than my feet? You get my drift? Now, if you're creeped out by this, think about me, right? Actually, I love this place. It's amazing. And welcome everybody to, what are we looking at tonight? We are going over that's interesting. So let's see if I could switch that. Well, you're that's not what we're supposed to be going over tonight, the Green Man. And I'm going to pull this down and try to bring it back up and see if I could fix that, because it was working just fine before that's the amazing thing about being live, right? And there we go. Perfect. All right. If you caught last night's live, it was a great conversation. I brought the fig tree generation on. We were talking about Daniel chapter 7 through 12-ish, talking about Tartaria and the fourth beast and Millennial Kingdom, all that good stuff. And you never know what's going to happen live. I actually got booted off. I was off for about 10 minutes, and just the plug I had it in, it wasn't getting the juice like it should have, and it was draining. And then I had to recharge my computer, get back on. Hopefully that doesn't happen tonight, because luckily Jenna was on and she was able to continue the conversation with the fig tree generation, Jim and Deborah. Tonight it'll just be blank space. But anyways, I just finished this week. We're going to get to Matthew, I promise. And it was 1 year ago I published my paper on the green man versus the millennial kingdom. Now, one of the things that I have been, when I made the claim several years ago that I suspected that the millennial kingdom happened in some sort of physical official capacity, I knew that this was a huge challenge and that it would take many years. I mean, it was so overwhelming. And the easier thing for me to do was to go say, anything I don't like, I'm just going to say they just made that up. They just invented it later. Oh, they just put that in there, And I realized I couldn't do that. That is not responsible. That I can't just custom design my own reality. That's not really how reality works. So I've been focusing a lot, going to a lot of these cathedrals. And one thing I noticed, because I had the goal to come out, the audacity to come out. It's so cute. My little daughter is staring at me through the frosted glass. She's got her face pressed up right now, watching Daddy on the TV, but she's watching me in here right now. I had the audacity to come out and say that I don't think the green man is pagan. And I dug and dug and dug. And I have noticed that in the last year, since I came out with that paper, that there has been a lot of other people coming out with their own research on the green man, which suspiciously lifts my own research that nobody else was talking about. Now it's out in the open. And they're just, they're doubling down. He's pagan, because it's, trying to pull, cut into the dark, sinister underminings of the Catholic Church, that kind of stuff. So I went in, I actually updated this paper this week, added about 15 to 17 new pages of information that is taking the green man narrative even deeper than I have ever seen anywhere before. I hope to give a presentation on it. I'm not only do I classify the green man as a grotesque now, not to be confused with the gargoyle. I have found new types of green men that I don't think anyone has ever identified before, including basilisk, showing that they are, a type of spiritual creature. But you'll see. I know this is not what we're supposed to be talking about tonight, but it's on my mind. One of the things I'm going to be showing in this presentation is that, or this paper, and when I give it, is that you can't just. This is a mistake that green man or even miltology or all these different fields, when people, they just kind of look at one thing like tunnel vision and they try to create this narrative out of it. You can't do that. You have to take everything in these cathedrals. You have to look at the complete as one big organism. That includes the gargoyles. It includes the domes. It includes the whatever, the Latin cross design. Everything comes together into one complete, picture. You can't segregate it all. So anyways, there's that. And I also came out with another several page update this week on my paper, Kings and Priests of the 1,000-Year Reign, in which I'm really excited about. And I come up, my whole thesis, as I call it, is that it was standing room only, that nobody sat during the Millennial Kingdom. And I've been going to these cathedrals and showing how actually there were no seats, there were no pews. Those were all there was no podiums or, whatever. There were no even sermons. That was all invented after the Millennial Kingdom during the Protestant Reformation. All inventions, like everything we know about church today, the entire Western church experience, it's actually it's like Protestant Reformation and afterwards. And that is enough to induce a panic attack among some people because, that's not my intent, but it's showing how much we have been severed from the umbilical cord of our spiritual heritage. Like the church experience today is so very different than everything I'm experiencing in these cathedrals. So let's get right to it tonight. Paleo Matthew. I'm calling this study 7, if I'm counting correctly. We've been doing 7 of these, making progress slowly but surely. Let's start with the Lord's Prayer. I hope everyone is doing good. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting this ministry, this channel, the website, the community, Pamela's translations, which we're reading from tonight, everything. Thank you, guys. And just a kind reminder, if everybody, prayerfully consider supporting this ministry. And we need your support, your ongoing support. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to read the standard over here. This comes from the KJV. I believe this is the KJV. And then the Paleo, Pamela's version over here. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Reading over here from the Paleo. Our Father, set apart is your name, and your royal dominion, your pleasure, your delight, you will exist in Shamayam and in Aratz. And give us our bread continually, and pardon our faults, our sins and missteps, in the same manner in which we forgive those who commit faults, sins, missteps against us. And Allahayam, or all, do not bring us into the hands of testing, but guard us from all evil. Amen. I just want to point out here that Pamela has a way of digging into this language. This is one of the reasons I love her translations, and she really gets to the heart of it. I mean, some of this is really cutting, and it's when you read it. Just let me read this line in the KJV over here. And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. That is true, but this really hits me on a very different level over here, where it says, and pardon our faults, our sins and missteps, in the same manner in which we forgive those who commit faults, of course, against us. Like the prayer here that we are giving to Allahayam, our Father in heaven, is asking him that we have the capacity within us to forgive other people on the level that he forgives us. Like that's not just jumping over a hurdle. I mean, that's like, splitting a mountain in half and, lifting a mountain, levitating. I mean, it can be done, but that is huge. Everyone out there, I mean, just think about that. And to put a focus on that in our prayers, that, our desire, put the desire within me to forgive, see other people as you see them, and forgive them as you forgive them, and is how I want you to obviously forgive me. That's incredible. So a little bit of review. I'm going to be starting, I think, from the last couple of breaks that we read, and then we'll get into the new stuff tonight. So I'll kind of steamroll through the beginning here. Again, YASHA'UA spoke to his students, when they pursue you in this city, run away into another. Aman, I firmly declare unto you, you will not complete for yourselves the cities of Yasharel until the son of Adam will come. And, I pointed this out last week. I mean, if anyone out there has doubts about when the quote unquote second coming will occur. Of course, preterists don't really like to say second coming because it's not in, the term second coming actually isn't found in the Bible. It's one of those things that people think it's there. It's kind of like a phantom statement, and it is used against the 70 AD narrative. It's more like Perusia, and his coming, but it's not a second coming. He could come any number of times. He could come 1,000 times. It wasn't necessarily. I mean, who's to assume that the virgin birth and the life of Messiah was his first coming? I mean, who is to assume that? We may very well see him in the Old Testament. People debate whether Melchizedek was Messiah, right? You see my point? Point being that he is pointing at those people, and he's not making the comment, oh, by the way, 2,000 years ago, there's going to be this generation of people, and they will not be able to flee to every city in YASHA'UA. But you will, and you'll die. I'm just talking about, I'm just giving some prediction for some unforeseeable future, and I'm not going to tell you when. Clearly, that's not the case. It was going to happen within 40 years. No student is greater than his teacher, and no servant is greater than his unuya. It is sufficient for the student to exist like his teacher, and for the servant to be like his Adonai or his unuya. Conditionally, if they call the owner of the house Baal Zabaub, how much more for his son and the body in Gehenna? Hopefully, it looks like I'm freezing for Pamela. So if I'm freezing for anybody else, do let me know, and I could try to fix it. Are not 2 sparrows lost for 1 penny? But not one from them shall fall. But not one from them shall fall upon the earth. Ha'aratz. Conditionally, without the will of your Father who is in heaven, in the Shamayam. And are not the hairs of your heads, all of them numbered? You will not look about you in fear. You are better than the sparrows, O Adam. The one who will praise me before the faces of the sons of Adam, I will praise to the face of my Father, who is in Shamayam. He who will deny me to the face of the sons of Adam, I will deny him to the face of my Father, who is in Shamayam. Now, of course, the classic Protestant idea here, I don't even know the Orthodox position, so I can't speak on them. But the growing up Protestant, the classic Protestant position here is that it is, it is an acknowledgement, right? It is an acknowledgement that he came and died and resurrected, and that's what you do. And you need to acknowledge that in your life. And then he's like, okay, good. You acknowledged that, that this happened historically. So I will bring you into my presence. But the greater context here, clearly, as we are seeing in the Gospel of Matthew, Paleo, or just in the Greek, if you prefer, is that to acknowledge him is to be obedient to him. And so if we are not obedient to him, and if we do not do the things he says for us to do, we do not model ourselves after what he did, then he's going to deny us. And going back to the prayer that we started with, guys, like that's really convicting. Like, I need to forgive. It is in the prayer that I give every single day that I need Yah to work on my heart and circumcise my heart in a way that I see others as he sees people, to move ever deeper into that gnosis, and to forgive people as he forgives me and others. And that is one of the ways that we acknowledge him in doing that. Here's a passage from a couple passages from Pamela's translation of Paleo Matthew. Not everyone who says towards me, Adu Unuya, will enter into the kingdom of Shamayam. However, the one who fashions the desire of my Father who is in Shamayam, he will enter into the kingdom of Shamayam. There's the context right there. The context never changes through Matthew. It's just like we read in the Torah, where it just repeats itself over and over and over. And just knowing that you're going to cherry pick and redefine and twist, it just says it again and again. Like, that's actually the whole Bible for you right there. A great many will say toward me in that day, Ada unuya, Ada unuya. Was it not on your behalf that we did prophesy, and on your behalf we did cast out demons, and we did fashion great signs in your name? And you guys all know the response here. And then I will say to them, from ancient time, I never knew you. Depart from me, all you workers of iniquity. Here's one more passage. I don't think we've got to this one yet. So it'll be a surprise when it comes up because I didn't give the chapter and verse. The son of Adam will send forth his mala'ikeah, his angels, his messengers, to uproot from his kingdom any serpent, wicked, evil, criminal, and all workers of iniquity. And he will send them forth into the conflagration of fire. And there he will exist, crying and grinding his teeth. Then the righteous will shine like Shamash in the kingdom of their Father. Whoever has ears to hear, he will hear. So when the angels come, when that, that rapture moment comes, you don't want to be the one taken away. All those people out there who are like, my righteousness is like filthy rags. I'm just like, and they treat grace like, like a menstrual rag. They're just like lathering their armpits and just, oh yeah, grace, baby. And they're out there sinning, and they're, it's like, and they're sitting around like, I can't wait for that rapture. It's like, yeah, you really, like, I'm telling you right now, you don't want to be the one taken away. I'm telling you that right now. Yeah. Let's keep reading. YASHA'UA speaks on recompense. In that same hour, YASHA'UA spoke to his students, do not think that I have come to set in place shalom or shalom upon the earth, ha'aratz, but rather the sword. I have come to separate the Adam, the son from his father, the daughter from his mother. The enemy shall exist as your loved ones. I gave you guys my testimony on that last week. And I wasn't looking for sympathy. I really wasn't. Some people said, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that." No, like, no, I really wasn't. I was hoping that there were some people who could relate to it. I know that there are, because people contact me all the time about this. I, without going into all the details again, I will quickly say that when I was a young man, a teenager, and I would read passages like this, I'd be like, this doesn't actually make sense, because this is not the Christianity they know. Are we just in a new time of where just people get it now, and it's like how is modern Christianity so separate from the words of Messiah? And then of course the day came when I understood on a more deeper level what his righteousness truly is, the instructions of righteousness in the Torah. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I see what you're saying there, because he's coming to clarify the Torah and to inspire people to keep it. We'll cover that tonight. We'll be showing passages tonight if you are in doubt about that. And every single time, it's like bringing the sword to your household. Like, you quickly see like who all the fakers are. You quickly see, because they react this venomous, visceral reaction that they have to actually God's very character. It comes out, and it's pretty scary to think about. Whoever loves his father and his mother more than me, I am not suitable for him. And that you can say husbands and wives too. I have this is something I didn't say last week. As a ministry leader, and you don't even need to be a ministry leader. You guys can see this yourself. But I have had counseling, and I've spoken to many people, and this trend will sadly continue, where I watch people fall away from the Torah. They decide to give it up, stop doing Sabbath, go back to porky or whatever. Just you go down the list. You can pick them all out on the basis that it's too hard of a journey, and they don't have the support of their spouse. And they just think it's easier, and they will justify it in their minds as to why they were in deception to actually be obedient, because did God really say? And it's tragic. And this is what this means, guys. This is what it means, that it's not saying not to love your father and mother, but if it comes down between your father and mother and your creator and your eternal security, if you want to call it that, your pilgrimage, your journey, your service, your servitude to the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, right? If it comes down between mommy and daddy and bowing a knee to the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, that's an easy decision. It should be. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't see it that way. And so obviously, yeah, you're not worthy of him if you can't do that. If you can't bow a knee and knowing that you will be rejected for doing that. Whoever loves his nephash, he will lose it. Whoever loses his nephash for my sake will find it. Whoever receives you will receive me, and whoever receives me will receive the one who sent me. Whoever receives a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive the recompense of the prophet. I almost wish I had in here the didache. I wish I had this in here, because if we make it tonight, I'm going to be talking about the blasphemy of the Spirit. And it connects, guys, the blasphemy of the Spirit to this passage right here. Receiving a prophet. Whoever receives a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive the recompense of the prophet. And whoever receives a righteous man in the name of the righteous, he will receive the recompense of the righteous. And he who gives a vessel of cold water to one of my little students, for the sake of my students, Aman, I firmly declare unto you that he will not lose his recompense. All right. I think that's where we ended last week. So we're going to charge through that. Let's get into the next section right there. But it was good review. Because, Matthew really is an incredible book, how every story and every chapter just kind of bleeds together. And they're just, it's like, it really reads like the Torah, where it's just Yah just rephrasing something over and over and over and over again in slightly different ways, hoping eventually we'll get it. It's taken me, 45 years of my life. I'm kind of slow. I finally got there. It's funny when the little kids, like the kids come and they, try to argue like the Torah with me. I'm like, okay, you got another 20, 25 years. Maybe you'll get there eventually. Just give it a little time. Think it over. And it existed when YASHA'UA had finished commanding his 12 students, that he passed over from there, and he commanded them to teach and to admonish in their cities. And when he existed imprisoned, this is speaking of John the Baptist now, Yahu Kanun heard of the works of YASHA'UA, and he sent forth 2 from his disciples to say to him, are you him, the one who is to come, or perhaps should we hope for another? Now, this is a very, very interesting question that is being asked, because I was under the impression that Yochanan, or John the Baptist, already declared, behold, the Lamb of Elohim who takes away the sins of the world. He seems to be kind of backpedaling now. He's like, he was certain at one point, now he's not. And of course he can't go and ask him personally because he's in prison, so he asked a couple of his disciples to go. And I actually think that this is a really fascinating component of John's character that doesn't really get tapped into enough. It doesn't really get critiqued, or not really critiqued, but analyzed. Maybe that's a better way to put it. And you're going to see what I mean in a minute. And YASHA'UA answered to them, walk you and say to Yochanan, what you have seen and what you have heard, the blind see and the lame walk, and the leprous ones become purified, and the deaf persons become hearing ones. The dead become living ones, and the poor, meek, afflicted ones are vindicated. And happy is he who does not exist ashamed of me. He never once says like, hey, dude, I am the Lamb of God who came to take away the sins of the world. That's not how YASHA'UA always rolls. And but his answer is even better. I mean, it's not like some superficial title. He's like, yeah, this is like my very character, who I am. What does that mean to you? Like, what do you think, John, that means that I'm able to, like, the deaf people are hearing, the blind are seeing, the dead are being raised, the lame walk, the meek and the afflicted ones are vindicated. I'm here for the poor and the sick, and making them better. And the last line is great. Happy is he who does not exist ashamed of me. And it existed as they walked that YASHA'UA began to speak toward the company concerning Yochanan. So now he's trying to, John's trying to figure out who he is. And apparently the crowd is confused who he is. They're all confused who John is. There's a lot of confusion. And so now YASHA'UA is trying to kind of feel them out. And he says, What did you go outside into the wilderness to see? A reed thrown about in the rout? Or perhaps did you go forth to see, turning it over in your mind, thinking that Yochanan would be a man attired in great clothing? Of course, that is what, we look for, right, in people, looking slick in their dress. Behold, those attired in the great garments are in the houses of kings. But what did you go forth to observe? A prophet? I firmly declare unto you that this one is greater than the prophet. This is he. Now, notice here, he just as he just told Yochanan, he didn't say, "Hey, I'm a King of Kings, Lord of Lords. I'm the Melchizedek high priest. I'm the anointed one. I'm Mashiach." He didn't say that, right? He gave this amazing description of himself. He's about to do that with John, whom we have written concerning, he is the witness. Behold, I have sent my powerful messenger, and he will change the direction of the way before my face. Now, a little commercial break here. I was in Paris a couple weeks ago. Some of you may know that. I did talk about that a little bit on one of my shows with Jenna. And when I went to Musée de Cluny, I'm telling you guys right now, I was in the kingdom of heaven. Like I might as well have been in the Millennial Kingdom. It might as well have been like a portal, a time travel portal. I could have spent all day there. I could have just sat in front of each exhibit and stared at it for like an hour and just every little detail. Of course, it's a different experience. I have my wife's amazing. My children are amazing, but I'm a family man. You guys know how that is. We were talking about this last night with Jenna and Jim and Deborah. Or they were talking about how they pray, this discipline of praying 3 times a day. They took up the challenge while reading Daniel. And I brought up how, prayer life changes a lot. It changes a lot when you have children. If you didn't see the show, I'll give you guys a quick example of this. And I want every single person out there listening right now. There's about 30 people listening live right now. But, maybe 1,000 people will watch this, 1,000 households will watch this video in the next few days. And any single people out there, you know who you are. Maybe you don't have to be single. Maybe you're married without children, right? Anyone without children. I just want you to do like an exercise right now. If you're watching this live, please don't do it. Just keep watching. But if you're not watching it live, just pause the video. Just do me a favor right now. Wait till I finish the instruction. But pause the video and just get up from the couch or wherever you're at. Walk towards the front door and say bye-bye and just walk out the front door. Just stand out there for like 20 minutes or something like that. Go get yourself an ice cream cone. Go get yourself a cookie. Go walk around the block. I don't know. You know what? Go run a marathon. A triathlon. Just, go swimming, go swimming from Southern California to Catalina and back. Whatever. And it's very different when you have children, right? So all that to say, I'm in the Musée de Cluny, and it's really happened. We had a museum staff, curator, whatever. We had a staff member following us from room to room the entire time. Nobody else, because I was the only one there with children and a little adorable little girl. And they just have this priceless stuff out there. You can just go poke it and touch it, right? So anyways, this was John the Baptist there. I was some of my viewers will think that you're not supposed to make any image of these people. I disagree with that. Very much so, and everyone has freedom to their opinion. This was a beautiful statue of John the Baptist here. Over here, it's Mary, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to be Mary the Mother or Mary Magdalene. It seems more like a Mary Magdalene piece to me. But and then, of course, over here, John the Evangelist. But what I loved about this was that they actually made him look kind of like a wild man, even though he's wearing, obviously, camel clothing. And you could tell it's clothing. If you look at him up closely, the texture is very much like they draw the wild men. I thought that was pretty cool. Let me just talk a few things about Elijah here before we move on. I'm not going to read you this article. This comes from the St. George article that I published about a month ago. I just released it to the public, so it was on Patreon for a while, but it's released out to the public. And it's where I'm tying in Phinehas and Elijah. It's like 90 pages of research. It's just showing all these passages where I'm tying in Phinehas, Elijah, and St. George is the same person. But the wild card in here is John the Baptist. Not really sure what to do with him. There are a lot of different theories on John the Baptist. So you can, what is the spirit of Elijah? Is it Elijah incarnate? Is it, or something else? And I leave it for you guys to decide. Nevertheless, here is the passage in, I'm like getting so steamy in this room. My glasses are steaming up. Malachi chapter 3. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And YAHWAH, whom ye seek, shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant, whom ye delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith YAHWAH of hosts. Seems to me, I mean, people can argue this. Seems to me that it's YAHWAH himself that is coming when the messenger, when Elijah shows up. Hence, John, YAHWAH shows up as well. But who may abide the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire and like fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. And he shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto YAHWAH an offering in righteousness. That's amazing. That describes Messiah's entire ministry right there. It's just absolutely mind-blowing. Then shall the offering of Yehuda and Yerushalayim be pleasant unto YAHWAH, because it wasn't pleasant at that time until, of course, his atoning sacrifice, as in the days of old, as in former years. And I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, and against the adulterers, and against false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow and the fatherless. He's not against the widow and the fatherless, obviously, but those who oppress them, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and from fear not me, saith YAHWAH of hosts. And then we see this passage quoted in Mark. I'm not going to go over that again. Now we see here in Luke that the prophecy, when it's given to Zacharias and his wife Elisheva, that Yochanan, it says this in verse 17 of chapter 1 of Luke, and he shall go before him in the ruach and power of Eliyahu, or Elijah. So again, that's up to you to interpret what's going on here. And then we read in Matthew 11. Okay, we already did this. I don't need to do this again. But here's another wild card in John. But I'm doing this exercise on purpose because I want to tie in with John's own doubt about who YASHA'UA is, and then vice versa. And this is what John says. But hold on. And they asked him, "What then? Are thou Eliyahu? Are you Elijah?" And he said, "I am not." So he says he's not Elijah. "Are thou that prophet?" And he answered, "No." So it's like they're trying to figure this out. Now, I don't know about that second line. Are they they're like, okay, so you're not Elijah, but are you the prophet from the, like, they're trying to figure this out now. And he's just like, "No, whatever you're saying, I'm not that." Then said they unto him, "But then who are you? That we may give an answer to them that sent us. What sayest thou of thyself?" And he said, "I am the voice of one crying in the wilderness, make straight the way of YAHWAH, as said the prophet Elijah." So he gives a very similar, like, he's quoting Elijah. He's quoting, of course, Malachi up here. And he's almost like responding the same way Messiah does to Elijah. So there's that. But let's keep reading. This is what we read in Book of Illuminators, chapter 9. I'm going to be sourcing this a lot tonight. I'm going to be showing how they actually parallel each other amazingly, giving insight along this passage in Matthew here. So Yochanan was imprisoned in a fortress. This comes from, of course, chapter 9. And this pleased Herodias, for she had long borne ill will towards him, though Herod had no lawful right to take his brother's wife. The fault was not his alone, Herodias wished with all her heart to rid herself of the condemnations of Yochanan, but could not accomplish this because Herod held Yochanan in awe. For he was a truly holy man, much beloved by the people. Though Yochanan was kept in confinement, Herod often spoke with him and listened to his words. But though they stirred the heart of Herod, he found them difficult to understand. While in prison, doubt stirred in the heart of Yochanan, and he sent disciples or Talmudim to YASHA'UA. So now we have the same scene we just read in Matthew being played out, inquiring whether he felt he was truly Allah's anointed. For at this time there was much confusion on the matters. When the Talmudim returned, their reply puzzled Yochanan, for they reported YASHA'UA saying the following: I am not he whom you expected. What? Or the deliverer of these people, but the deliverer of all men. Nevertheless, if only another will change the hearts of the people, I shall not be found wanting. And then it says this, but Yochanan received wisdom and knew he had not erred. So that's really interesting. So Yochanan then, he realizes through the wisdom of Hakamaha, our mother Hakamaha, I think, you could say the Ruach HaKodesh if you prefer. He realized that he was correct in calling him the Lamb of God. He takes away the sins of the world. Even though, again, he doesn't say he's the Messiah. So I just want to throw that out there, that even though John, goes into his psyche, like, he's like a real human guy. It's just like you and me. And he doesn't know. He has doubts. He has doubts as to who he is, not Messiah, but who he is. And I think that is, when people throw that out there, well, he denied being Elijah. Okay, fine. He denied it, but he didn't know. That's the amazing thing. So there's that. Reading on, YASHA'UA comments on the ministry of Yochanan. Again, YASHA'UA spoke to his students. In truth, I speak to you, among all those born to women, there has not arisen greater than Yochanan the immerser. From his days until now, the kingdom of Shamayam has been oppressed by ones tearing at her. For all the prophets and the Torah have set words in order concerning Yochanan, and conditionally, if you wish to accept him, he is YAH, the ancient one to come, Elijah. I mean, this is what he says. And conditionally, if you wish to accept him, he is Elijah, the ancient one to come. What does that mean to you? The ones who have ears to hear will hear. I don't know. Do I have ears to hear that? I don't know. Do you have ears to hear that? What does that mean to you? So let's get back into the book of the Illuminators. We're in chapter 11 and see what we can parallel here. A soldier in the crowd asked YASHA'UA, do you uphold the teachings of Yochanan of the wilderness? For there was a man I can understand. Kind of interesting that Herod was moved by him. He was kind of pricked in the heart, but he couldn't understand. And we know that he was popular amongst the people. And there is a soldier. Is this a Roman soldier? Is this one of Herod's soldiers? Not really sure on the context. YASHA'UA replied, Yochanan sent men to me inquiring whether I was the promised one, or should they look for another? I said, go back and inform Yochanan of all the things you have heard and seen here, which lines up with Matthew, and how the poor are learning about the coming of the rule of Allahayam, and the disinherited told when justice will reign. People went out into the wilderness expecting to find a great man, but what had they in mind? A man speaking like the prophets of old, or a nobleman clad in garments of fine linen? Yochanan dressed in a manner fit for the place and purpose, and he spoke in accordance with the message he had to convey. He was the man of whom the holy books speak, a voice of one crying in the wilderness, preparing the path for one who follows. And you can see their source, Isaiah 43, Matthew 11, which we just read in Luke 7. I tell you with all sincerity, no mother ever gave birth to a better man than Yochanan. Yet when the rule of Allahayam comes, everyone living will have to exceed him. Ever since Yochanan declared these things, he was harried with violence. Even though all the prophets before him foretold present events, he spoke with the voice of Eliyahu. And if any of you have the understanding, you will know what I mean. I mean, I guess that's mainly my interpretation. I'm still open, but that's mainly my interpretation, that he is Elijah. And I will tell you guys the ending to the St. George paper, that he dies, St. George dies a multitude of times. Now, people will bring up, well, no, it is appointed for every man to die once. That's true. That's what it says, right? And I don't think that actually, you could define that in a number of ways. I don't think that discredits this theory. And interestingly enough, Phinehas never died. Elijah never died. And if I'm not mistaken, St. George died 3 times. Might have been four, but I think it was 3 times, which means he did not die to account for John the Baptist, because John the Baptist did die. He died to account for Phinehas. He died to account for Elijah, and then himself. So there's that. Give it a read, guys. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in there. Concerning this generation, which is wrapped up within itself and blind to all going on about it, there is little to say. It is like children at play calling out to one another, we play the pipes, but you refuse to dance. We raise the laments, but you will not mourn. Like all good men, Yochanan was misunderstood, for few knew the measure of greatness. He lived simply, neither eating nor drinking to excess, and because of his way of life, men called him crazy. One of the things I was pondering this week, we like to point the finger at other people. Now here, we would read something like this and go, yeah. If John the Baptist were around today, people would call him crazy. Well, the same as with Messiah, right? I mean, like I'm telling you right now, the church would try to crucify Messiah all over again. Like the church, not even the Jews at this point. Like the church, I think a lot of them would try to crucify Messiah all over again if he were to come back and just be himself. That kind of ended. I've given this story before, but I was a mission intern. It would have been 20 years ago now. Making a statement like that at a church meeting, actually, it ended. That was it. I never met with. They never asked me to meet with them again. They were just like, if you feel that the church is actually that far gone from who he is, then yeah, like we have no use for you. And I was speaking generically too. But I really want to point the finger at ourselves, right? I'll point the finger at myself, and I'm asking everybody out there to point the finger at yourself. I mean, would you? Because nobody thinks. It's kind of like an evil person. Like no evil person thinks they're really evil usually. And it's the same thing with this. Like there are people out there we think are crazy. Would he look at a guy like this? I hope not. I hope that I would not go like, yeah, that guy's crazy. I want nothing to do with that guy. I hope not. I truly hope not. This is why I always say that the Torah is intended to be a transformative document, right? It's not intended for anybody else but yourself. All right. YASHA'UA speaks on the foolish judging the wise. Again, YASHA'UA declared, the circuit of this generation I will liken to young boys who sit about in the market. Wait, didn't we just read this in Illuminators? Anyways, I will liken to young boys who sit about in the marketplace, this one calling out to that one. And they say, we sang to you and you did not dance. We narrated stories to you and you did not cry. That's actually sounds like wisdom literature. That's exactly what Hakamaha says in Proverbs. And, she goes about and she's in the marketplaces and trying to get people's attention, and nobody's interested in her. They're just interested in the floozies, the spiritual horrors, all the others, but not the truly great, modest mother of all creation. For Yochanan came and he was not eating or drinking, but still they declared about him that he was overcome from demons. But the son of Adam came eating and drinking, and they declare about him that he was a glutton and a drunkard and a lover of corrupt persons and sinners. But the foolish ones are the judges of the wise. Break 50. Now you can see here that I on the KJV section, I put in there, I highlighted, what is that? Chorazin or Chorazin and Bethsaida and Capernaum. And then I'll read it over here for you in the Paleo. Then YASHA'UA commenced to curse the cities in which he had fashioned his signs, but they had not turned back in repentance. So keep in mind, this is what we are told that the 70 were instructed to do in Luke. This is what he instructed his disciples to do. Remember, it's gonna be bad for them. It's gonna be worse than on the day than in Sodom and Gomorrah. Those who reject him, and then we can get from here. This is where we could break into miltology and what I think happened in like 536, and where we see this heat index event all over the world. And there were, I believe, societies that truly were destroyed, corrupted, destroyed, melted at that time. But even the judgment could have come before that. It may not just be referring to 1 year. I'm going to give you examples of this. Anyways, so now he's setting the example. And woe to you, Borzoi, and woe to you, Beth Shah-Yadah. For conditionally, if in Azar and Sodom or Sodom, in a foreign barbarous language, Tireo Dieter or Sadauma, the signs had been fashioned which we fashioned in you, they would have in that time turned back in repentance in sackcloth and ashes. Amen. I firmly declare unto you, he will exist much easier for Zaor and Sadaum than you. And you, O Kafar Nukaum, this would be Capernaum, village of consolation, conditionally, should you ascend into Shamayam, from there you will be brought down. For conditionally, if the signs which were fashioned in you had been fashioned in Sadaum, perhaps you would have remained. Unto Shaul you will descend. Aman, I firmly declare unto you, he will exist much easier for the land as Sadaum in the day of judgment than for you. So this is a shout out to Joe Telford. I don't know who the individual is, but a viewer, a watcher, a long time watcher. He was discussing this passage with me, and in my various reports in my book, The Glorious Appearing, which deals with 70 AD in that generation. I went through the 7 churches in Revelation, and I showed how they were promised, if they would endure, they would promise to be, either amongst the 144,000 or paradise or whatever. And then I showed how each of those churches were destroyed. And I'm like, well, that's a little awkward that they are no more and they were promised, such and such, post Revelation, if it didn't happen in 70 AD, if you get my drift, if it's a future event. Well, the same thing happened here. And I had mentioned to him, I'm like, wow, actually, I when I was making that commentary, I actually didn't pick up on these. And so Joe Telford, I guess, commented on this. So here we can see the city of, how do you pronounce that? Chorazin. It has been destroyed. Now, I do want to point out that I say this all the time, but I'm not going on an apology tour, but I just want to clarify for people my position is that I do not believe that the entire world did Ring Around the Rosie or hot potato or whatever. The lights went out and everyone moved and all the countries are in new places. I don't believe that. I think that generally speaking, like ancient Britain is ancient Britain where I am now. Ancient Gaul is ancient Gaul. Ancient India is ancient India. I don't think they've been switched. I'm not knocking anybody who does. That's just my position, right? So I couldn't actually give this as a point if I did believe that. If I believe that, Capernaum and all these places were in different places and they say they are, then I could not prove. I mean, it could be Los Angeles, right? I couldn't prove that they've been done away with. But here I'm showing you that this was destroyed. Over here, Capernaum destroyed, and of course Bethsaida destroyed. And there you could see some of their, I guess, Baal worship is what I would guess that is right there going on. Destroyed. Day of Judgment came. Little awkward if YASHA'UA's like, yeah, on the Day of Judgment they're going to be destroyed, and I guess the Day of Judgment hasn't happened yet, but they're destroyed. I don't know how that really works. You guys know what I'm talking about. Clearly, we're much further along in the timeline than we are told. YASHA'UA speaks on his relationship with his father. Break 51. At that time, YASHA'UA arose and declared, I will boast. I, the creator of Shamayam and Ha'aratz, am he who has concealed these matters from the wise and the knowledgeable and have revealed them to the poor, wretched, needy. Truly, for in this manner it was upright before your face, my Father. The whole has been given to me from my Father, and there is none who has recognized the Son but the Father alone. And the Father no one recognizes but the Son, and to whom the Son desires to reveal him. Come unto me, all you weary ones, and who are enduring hard labor, and I will help you to carry your burden. Come forth, my burden shall be your burden. Learn from me and recognize that I am poor and good and pure of heart, and you will discover rest, quiet serenity for your nefesh, or your nefeshat. My yoke is gentle and my burden is light. Beautiful passage of scripture there. I've seen this twisted in so many egregious ways in which people are like, well, that just proves that just proves that I can be disobedient because it's burdensome to be obedient. It's hard to have to obey my father, and I really don't feel like it. But the desires of my flesh don't really tell me to do that. And I actually think that you're actually the fleshy one if you want to be obedient to him, because it's so burdensome. And it's like, no, he just told you right here, like doing what he says to do is not burdensome at all. Now, to be fair, and I've given this example many times before. I mean, he gave Israel another 40 years to repent. 40 years, sign of judgment. They could have repented. They were living in the land. They had some hardships. I mean, they had Rome over them, just like we have, Rome over us today. But they had some hardships. But, I would imagine that if I'm living in first century Judah, and I'm not talking about the pig farmers out there on the other side of the Sea of Galilee, but I'm wandering through Nazareth and Bethlehem and just wherever, going by Jacob's well and so on and so forth, that even amongst the Samaritans, like I'm assuming that I'm going to go out and get a taco, and please nobody tell me they didn't have tacos back then, because then I have no desire to go back then. But, I'm not going to go out and get a taco and there's going to be pork in it, right? It's not going to be in there. I don't have to worry about stuff like that. I could just go out and know that, there is the general understanding that things are going to be uphill. Now, today it's harder because of the curse, because we have chosen the curse, because our forefathers have chosen the curse. It is harder for us now. You go to the supermarket, we've got those poisons they're spraying over us. Thank YAH that states are starting to outlaw that. You go down, thank YAH that the government's starting to outlaw like food colors and food dyes, things like that. But you go down to the supermarket, you got to check everything because you don't know if it has unclean food in it. You guys know what I'm talking about. That's a bit of a burden. Yeah, that's what happens with the curse. It's a bit of more of a burden to get out of the pigsty. But that's not really what he's talking about here, or maybe he is. But he's like, look, I'm going to be a gentle, merciful YAH to you. He's quoting from Deuteronomy, where he's like, in the end days, when you're out there waking up, you're getting red pilled as you're bowing down to other gods and realizing that, you remember my name, YAHWAH, you start remembering my name. I'm going to be a merciful Elohim to you. I'm going to be gentle with you. I'm going to discipline you, but I'm going to be gentle with you. I'm going to guide you as long as you're willing to be obedient, guys. And it's not like an overnight thing, right? It's a slow process of sanctification, of him being, okay, all right. It's kind of like, with your children, your child is in kindergarten and he brings you this picture and you're like, it's like a stick figure and you're thinking like, yeah, this isn't really very good, right? But you're not, holding him. You're not holding the Mona Lisa against him or Picasso, right? Well, this is no Picasso, kid, right? it's a slow process, and you slowly work with them. Okay, like how can we like improve this and make this like a little bit less of a stick figure? Give the face a little bit more emotion, a little bit more Baroque. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a slow process of getting there. All right, so let's see what the Book of the Illuminators have to say about this. YASHA'UA went by boat, and where he landed, there was a man who lived in a deserted tomb. Okay, so I'm going to be reading. Actually, this is going to parallel what we covered last week too, because he was tormented by an intrusion from the kingdom of dark Ruakoth. Attempts had been made to confine him in fetters, but because of the strength unnaturally given, he easily escaped. Day and night, he would shriek among the tombs and upon the hillside. That's like not comforting to me right now, as there is literally like a cemetery. There's no backyard here. It's any window, you just go out and there's a cemetery back there. Terrifying people and often injuring himself by falling. YASHA'UA knew the nature of the tormenting thing and called upon the power within him. So it entered the body of the possessed man, wrestling with the evil thing inside him. Then the man ran screaming among a herd of swine, and two fell into a ravine. But shortly the man became calm, for the evil intruder had departed from him. The swineherds ran away to carry the tale of these events to people round about, who came to see for themselves what had happened. When they saw the madman was rational, they became afraid and asked YASHA'UA to go away. When YASHA'UA was preparing to depart, the man who had been cured begged to go along with him. But YASHA'UA said, "No, you remain here and bear witness for me." The man spread the tale of what had been done for him through all the free cities, for he received much silver in the marketplaces. Coming close to another town on the seashore, where a crowd was gathered to hear him, YASHA'UA saw Matthew, or Matthew. This is all repeat from last week, seated where dues were collected. He said unto him, "Are you ready to follow me?" For he had spoken with Matthew before. And Matthew replied, "I am ready, but first come and eat with me." When YASHA'UA arrived at Matthew's house, he found other tax gatherers had assembled there with many others who did not observe the Torah of Moshe, which are in the holy books of the Yahudim. I wonder if those are the like the wicked people, or like the unrighteous people that he was, the sinners he was eating with. I think it just defined this for us in the Book of the Illuminators, or the Nazarene, if you will, of all places. Let me read this again. There were many others who did not observe the Torah of Moshe, which are in the holy books of the Yahudim. How dare he eat with sinners? Those sinners, I tell you, who do not observe the Torah of Moshe. While eating, YASHA'UA said, "No man of himself can know right from wrong. For what is right in one man's eyes may be wrong in another's. Therefore strife arises among them. Only when men accept a single standard of judgment, abide by it, can there be peace." And that comes from Habakkuk 1:4. When men live together without the light of the Torah, they are like a house built with unmortared bricks, or like men trying to tow a boat, but all pulling in different directions. That is so amazingly good. Okay, so if you have like how do you can talk to like anybody out there, and they have a sense of morality, justice, things that you can't kind of grasp physically, but like spiritually, intellectually, they're there. But this is like philosophy 101 discussion. You sit down, with your professor and that kind of stuff, and there'll be an atheist or something. But the thing is that how do you decide on morality? We have this problem right now in my own country, in America. I mean, won't speak for any other countries right now. There is a huge morality debate, even amongst Christians, amongst conservative and liberals, over something like abortion, right? You actually have a huge chunk of American Christians, if you can even call them that, but they say they're Christians, and they believe it is perfectly acceptable to just mass murder babies. Totally acceptable. They think it's God's will or biblical or whatever. He just loves these women's bodies, whatever, and the babies aren't a body, whatever. We don't need to go into all that. But it's like, he just said here that's like what the towing the boat in different directions is. Everyone has their own ideas of morality because they're doing what's right in their own eyes. They're not actually checking what he said is the standard of morality. And that's it, the Torah. That's it. And he then goes on to say there are two laws, the law of men and the Torah of the Father who is in heaven. When I speak of the Torah, I do not mean the law of men. I am the light illuminating Allah's Torah, so men see it more clearly. And though I fulfill the Torah, I do not change it. So right here, guys, this is the theme of Matthew. Even though we are reading from the book of the Illuminators, let me read this again. I am the light illuminating Allah's Torah, so men see it more clearly. Okay, so, and he, just before anyone says out there, well, he changed it. He says, and though I fulfill the Torah, I do not change it. So Messiah was not like, he was not creating something new apart from the Torah. Oh, we have, the Torah is all about blood and guts and just, killing people and, blah, 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 and no mercy. And it's like Cobra Kai in the Bible, versus, Miyagi-Do in the New Testament or something like that. It's like, no. He's like, look, I'm telling you, this was always the intent. I'm not teaching you something apart from the Torah because you're going to be in the Gentile land or anything like that. It was always intended the way I live my life. I'm telling you this because I personally speak to the Father. The Father knows me and I know the Father. And I have never said or did anything apart from what the Father said or did. I've learned everything from him. And I'm telling you guys, however you think the Torah is supposed to be interpreted, I'm doing it correctly. Like, just follow me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the Torah incarnate. Never say this is right or that is wrong, but only this is right or wrong according to the Torah and in light of YASHA'UA. Again, so when we get into any morality debate, this is what we do as a group at Tuck. When we get together, we'll talk about, some people are just like, like, I want nothing to do with the government, whatever. I'm not like that, okay? Like, that's not reality. I don't believe in anarchy. I do believe in submission to authority. I really do. Even though, we can point out all the hoaxes and the psyops and all those things happening, I still believe in submission to authority, in the kings that have been put over us in the divine council sense or whatever. And I don't believe that kings are, like, I hear all the time, Noel, being a king, that's unbiblical. It's like, well, okay, but his title is King of Kings, not king of no kings. He's King of Kings. It means that there are kings under him that are under his authority that are put there. And those kings I'm not that king. I'm sorry, I'm not. I mean, I'm king of my household. I mean, you know what I'm saying? King of the house. I don't know if, king of the hill, I guess. A lot of our wives will, kind of roll their eyes at that. Yeah. This is right or this is wrong according to the Torah. So as we, look at this imperfect world, we can find that there are many things the different governments of the world are doing that are actually lining up with the Torah. And I think in those ways, they should be applauded. They should be encouraged instead of saying, no, it's all evil. We just want it done away with. No. Like, if our government's going to say, hey, we want less babies aborted. All right. That's Torah, baby. Let's do that. Let's push any government of the world. That's why we're here, right? We want to advance the kingdom everywhere. Government, no government, everywhere we want to advance it. And anytime we see justice played out, all right, let's do it. I bring new oil for the lamp of the Torah, for that within it is now impure. Another theme of Matthew right there. It's speaking, of course, of why he needed the transfer from the Levitical to the Melchizedek priesthood. And the light produces too much obscuring smoke. For I am the Son of Man and bear the sufferings of men, coming to fulfill their hopes, even as it has been foretold. Is it not said among the Jesseneth that the Son of Man is the perfected man who will set the standard for those who wish to be true sons of Allahayam? Later, when Yashua went outside, he found some Pharisees or some parashim. Excuse me, I'm going to need another drink of coffee. They were standing apart, as was their custom. And one put the question of Yashua. And he said, how can you claim to be a teacher interpreting the Torah of Allah when you associate with tax gatherers and lawbreakers? Now remember, they already defined the sinners here. Again, they define lawbreakers, right, as those who were breaking the Torah. And Yashua replied, it is not the healthy who need the attentions of a physician, but those who are ill. So, did he just say that? Like Yashua just said, he just defined the people that are ill, the people that are breaking the Torah. They are the ill ones. They are sick and they need a doctor. So everyone out there, let's get them to a physician as quickly as possible. We love them and we don't want to see them in a sick condition. Let's get them to the ultimate physician, the word, the Torah himself. It is the tree growing out of the sand which requires watering, not the one growing by the river. I come to minister to the spiritually sick, not to the righteous who have their consolation. A man in the crowd said, this is a day of fasting kept by all who are truly religious. Yet here are you and your Talmud eating and drinking. Now, this is some interesting commentary. And when you get into the Didache, I said, I wish I was sourcing this tonight. I almost did, and I didn't. There's a command in the Didache on days you're supposed to fast and not fast on. And people will look at that and say, that's leaven. They're adding to the Torah. And I actually don't agree with that. I don't see it as a law like from heaven. What they're trying to do in the Didache is apparently, I can't prove this, but it seems to be agreed upon. And we see this right here, that the Pharisees had set up actual days of the week when they would go out there and they would fast. They would all agree to it and they would go out there publicly, put on a big show. And it was disgusting. And so this is why in the Didache, the teachings of Adonai, the Lord, they're like, don't fast on that day. Just don't do it. And when you do fast, don't let anybody know about it. All right. But do not go fast. Just go eat food on that day. All right. Just don't even take part in the stupid games. And so Yashua said, is it usual for attendants at the bridal shower to deprive themselves of pleasure while the bridegroom is with them? Soon he will depart, and that is the time for hearts to be heavy. A heart weighed down without cause is an unnecessary burden, adding neither joy nor benefit to the lives of men. Fasting is good, but when it becomes a routine religious rite, it is no more than a purposeful vexation. A soldier in the crowd asked Yashua, do you uphold the teachings of Yochanan of the wilderness? For there was a man I can understand. Okay, I actually read that, so let's repeat. So let me just jump ahead for lack of time. Concerning this generation, which is wrapped up within itself and blind to all going on about it, there is little to say. It is like children to play. Oh man, I read this too. Let me skip ahead. One of the parashim who was nearby said to Yashua, we understand your meeting, but where do you stand in relation to the Torah? Have you come to take it away or declare it obsolete? But I don't know what was going through this guy's mind. Is he, thinking about more of his Talmudic literature? Are you making that obsolete? Because as you guys know, with modern rabbinical Judaism, there is no Torah apart from the Talmud. Like the Torah is translated through the Talmud, just kind of like in the Protestant church where, the rest of the Bible is translated through Paul's writings. And Yashua replied, no one patches an old cloak with new fabric, for this shows up its age without strengthening it. Now, I want everybody to hold on to something like really tight, like hold a loved one. Just, find someone close to you and just hold them right now. Or just hug yourself if you need to, because we're about to witness a Mandela effect residue right here. I didn't cover this last week, at least not this residue. He says, likewise, no sensible person puts new wine into old wineskins. What? For this causes them to split. The wine pouring out, so neither the wine nor the wineskins have any value. Is it not much wiser to put new wine into new wineskins? By the way, I've quoted from this book, the Colburn, before for the Lion and the Lamb as well. It's you get some residue in this book. It's pretty fun. I have come to place something beside that which is already there, to hold a mirror to the Torah and to man, so both may be seen with greater clarity. If you can notice here, there is a reference to James chapter 1, 22 through 25, when he talks about a man who looks at his reflection in the mirror and walks away and forgets what it looks like. And it's the same context. James is talking about the Torah. He's actually talking about the water washing in front of the temple, the tabernacle in the wilderness. But and this is what I say, and this is the thing. This is also when we talk about mirrors, right? Like you always want to get below the surface, or else if you just look at the surface, you're a narcissist. Like you just look at your own reflection. But you have to get to have the true transformative experience. So you have to get below the surface into the subconscious. In biblical, I guess, terminology, right? You want to have that circumcised heart. A poor man standing nearby said, "What use is the wisdom of the holy books? Will it provide our bread?" And YASHA'UA replied, "That's actually a pretty good question. What use is a lamp at night? Will its light appease hunger? Is it worthless because it cannot do so? Each thing has its appointed use. The foot should not be called upon to do the work of the arm, nor the ear the work of the eyes. A carpenter does not do the work of a potter, nor does a weaver make plows. A pupil may not be a good teacher, nor a servant a good master. Each must seek only to excel in the position he has, and not to be better than others at their own task. Whoever supports me, that person will I support, and I will strive with those who are against me. I have not come to bring peace, but to put a sword into the hands of men, setting sons against their fathers and daughters against their mothers. For nothing is worthy if a man will not fight for it. Anyone following me will find enemies among his own kindred. And though he love his parents above all else, I will give him a cause which is greater. My burden is not light and must be shouldered with fortitude and courage." That's amazing, guys. Like, because I just told you, I just told you that maybe 30 minutes ago that yes, his yoke is easy and his burden is light, and yet people all the time look at his Torah, his instructions, and go, that's too heavy of a burden. I can't do that. And I told you that I watch the one of the biggest reasons I watch people fall away is because of relationships. Almost number one. It's usually very close, like spouses, things like that. They pull them away, and it's sad. It's brought me tears. I mean, there's been people that I've been really hurt by just not that they're like hurting me personally, but just really just grieved for them that I watched them fall away from the faith. They saw it, they knew it was the truth, and they willingly walk away because of their loved ones. And this is where he says right here, yes, his burden is light, but it must be shouldered with fortitude and courage. Fortitude, like you defend it with your life. You guard those commands, and you got to have courage to stand up to be that one person to stand up against a million people. Just that, all of them, they're all against you. They're hissing. They just think you're stupid and dumb and ignorant. And they call you baby booby names. You're a Judaizer. You're this and that, you're fleshly, you're whatever. And that takes a lot of courage. And this is what he says, those finding it too heavy must go elsewhere. Isn't that the truth? The man who seeks to preserve his life through cowardice will be deprived of its benefits, and he who is prepared to make sacrifice for the cause of man will surely gain the crown of life. Whoever receives a good and just man openly, giving him his due, shall in turn be given the reward of his merit. But those who expect to receive rewards bestowable only by one greater than a prophet will be disappointed. It was after this that YASHA'UA said to his disciples, his Talmidim, when the task is difficult, a man seeks consolation from his father. A man may be lonely among many, but no one need be lonely in the Ruach, for this is never shut off from communication with the source of comfort. And then YASHA'UA prayed, O Father above heaven and earth, your Son submits to you to your will. And if things declared in your name remain mysteries to the learned, but are revelations to the simple-hearted, you know best, my Father. You have placed a great responsibility on your Son, but few heed him. The Father's words spoken through the mouth of his Son are not highly regarded. Later, at another place, YASHA'UA said to the people gathered there, follow me, all those who are overburdened and weary, and I will help you. Take the yoke of my cause upon you and learn from me, for this will ease and not add to your load. I am understanding and compassionate, not expecting anyone to bear a load too heavy for them. The heavy laden shall know the light and be moved from the darkness, but they who cast aside their burden and go astray are lost forever in darkness. Do you guys notice the play on words there? It's talking about the standard of morality again. So the heavy laden shall. So in both of these, there's two people here. They both have a heavy burden. All right. So the heavy laden shall know the light and be moved from the darkness. But they who cast aside their burden and go astray are lost in darkness forever. So both of them ultimately lose their burden. But some of these here are, this is the irony. This is the irony. This is one of the big things that you guys have probably been accused of if you are pursuing Yah's instructions in righteous living, that you are doing it by your own, your own fleshly desire, your own willpower. Actually, that's not true. I mean, the reason why the new covenant is the better covenant is because the promise is that we will have circumcised hearts in which the law will be written on our hearts and we can do it, right? That's the thing. Like, if it's written, the only person who can circumcise, we cannot circumcise ourselves. It has to be Yah who does it. So these people here, it's almost like they're projecting onto you because they're actually the ones that are doing it by their own willpower. They can't do it. And they cast this burden aside and they go into the darkness. You see how that works? It's a play on words. Life loads each according to his capacity, and no two bear a similar burden. Book of the Illuminators, chapter 11. This is getting in some good territory here. I love this part. I hope you guys are paying attention. Hope you guys are enjoying this. I can break these up probably into several. I should probably just break these up into several videos because there's so much good content in here that gets buried. YASHA'UA declares the son of Adam is Adaun or Adonai of the Sabbath, Lord of the Sabbath. I love talking about this. At that time, YASHA'UA passed through the standing grain on the Sabbath day. And his students were hungry. They began to pluck the ears of grain and crush them between their hands and to eat them. And the Pharisees observed him, and they declared toward him, behold, your student is fashioning that which is not correct to fashion on the Sabbath day. And again, excuse me. Again, this is another accusation, right? That people say that they agree with the Pharisees here. Like, anytime you find yourself, guys, like agreeing with like the Jews, like the Pharisees, it's probably not the best people to agree with, like when it's pitted against Messiah. And yet, Christians fall into this trap all the time. And they're like, oh, well, he sinned. So we can sin because Messiah sinned. You see how that works? It's like, wrong. Obviously he's not blameless. He's not the spotless lamb. Obviously, if their accusation is correct, then he was sinning. And YASHA'UA replied to them, did you not read what was done by Daud when he and his men existed hungry, who in the house of the Alakuyam ate from the bread of the faces in a foreign barbarous language, Fa'an Sagra, which we must not eat except for the priest only? And additionally, have you not read in the Torah how the priests in the house of the Makudash sometimes desecrate the Sabbaths and for them are not sinning? Amen. I firmly declare unto you that the Makudash is greater than this. I want you guys to just think of one quick example here that a priest is you're told not to work on Sabbath. Everybody knows that, and yet a priest was expected to work on Sabbath. He had duties he had to fulfill on the Sabbath, and in fulfilling those duties, he's actually not breaking the Torah, right? He's not sinning. That's one of the ways I view this, what he's talking about right here. Amen. I firmly declare unto you that the Makudash is greater than this. If you had known what this means, I delight in kasad and not sacrifice, then you would not have existed as ones who had convicted the innocent. For the son of Adam is Adaun of the Sabbath. He is Lord of the Sabbath. All right, so let's turn back again to the book of the Luminaries. I'm doing this a lot tonight because the parallels are just unbelievable. At this time, YASHA'UA always kept some Talmudim with him when he walked about. And one Sabbath, same story, he and two of them were following a small pathway leading past uncut corn ripening in the husk. The Talmudim plucked a handful, for the Torah permitted them to do this, providing they did not enter the field or take any away. And rubbing the ears between the fingers ate the grain. So this comes from, you can see in Deuteronomy 23. This is a practice that I keep. If I'm walking down the street and there are plants like fruit trees that are growing over the fence, and you guys know what I'm talking about. They come down the sidewalk and there's fruit right there. I don't feel any guilt just plucking that if I want to eat it and just eat it. My wife and I and our kids were going through Europe, and there's just fields everywhere, and they just overgrow, over the fence and everything. And there'll be blackberries, and also we'll just pluck the blackberries and we're eating them. That's totally acceptable according to the Torah. I mean, I guess if there is like a strict law in a government that is telling you to break the Torah, there's that right there. But if they're like, this is capital punishment, you're going to prison for this, maybe you want to think twice about doing that. But, for all intensive purposes, you have a right to do this. The Talmudim, three parashim were passing by, and they rebuked the Talmudim and said to YASHA'UA, why do you allow your followers to do things not permitted on the Sabbath? And YASHA'UA answered, does the deed affect the day? Have you not read that when driven by hunger, David went into the house of YAHA and took the sanctified loaves to eat, sharing them with his men? Though these loaves were reserved for priestly fare, did he not justify himself by saying all produced by the earth were for the use of men? Surely this Sabbath was made for the sake of man, and not man for the sake of the Sabbath. As man bows to the needs of life, so the Sabbath must bow to the needs of men. This is brilliance, guys, brilliance. And when we keep reading here, we're gonna see, again, for everyone out there say, oh, see, he's slacking there. He's allowing you to sin on, whatever. He did away with the Torah, with the Sabbath. No, he did not. Because we're going to see a complete contrast here of a man who is sinning on the Sabbath according to Messiah. Toward evening, as they returned, YASHA'UA saw a man working in the fields and said to him, if your labors are dedicated to the service of YAHA, you are blessed. But if it is otherwise, you are a lawbreaker. So right there, he has just defined what kind of work is acceptable on a Sabbath. If it is for the service of YAHA, for serving other people, like you need to go out there and you need to get food to feed people or whatever, totally acceptable. If you're going out there to work for your own benefit, for your own financial gain, then you are a lawbreaker, you are sinning. That's as I'm reading it right here, and I agree. I think this backs up with canonical scripture as well. That is the measuring stick on any given Sabbath. Anything you do, Ask yourself that question. Is this for my betterment, my financial gain? Am I expanding my own kingdom? Or am I expanding the kingdom of YAHA'UA, and I am not getting any kind of gain out of this? The Talmudim, hearing this, said, Master, is there so much difference between the things of the morning and the things of the evening? And YASHA'UA said, the same difference is between an empty stomach and a full one. The same thing may be forgiven one man, but not another. YASHA'UA heals in the Sabbath. Break 53. Oh boy, here we go. And it existed a few days later that YASHA'UA passed through from there, and he entered into their houses of synagogues. And there was an Adam, and his hand was shriveled. And they asked him, saying, conditionally, is it permissible to heal him on the Sabbath? And he declared unto them, who among you that has to himself one sheep, and she falls into a pit on the Sabbath day, and he does not raise her up? Indeed, the Adam is more excellent than the sheep. Therefore, it is permissible and necessary for Adam to fashion that which is good on the Sabbath. And then he said to the man, spread out your hand. And he spread out his hand, and it turned back the same as the other. And then the Pharisees established a secret council and plotted towards his death. I guess that's what did it right there. All right, so here we're going to read this. It's a parallel story, again, continuing in the book of the Illuminators. On another Sabbath, YASHA'UA came out of the temple to be accosted by a man who, with a paralyzed arm, who said, Master, I'm a mason who can no longer be useful and must humiliate myself by begging for food to feed my family. Let me become a whole man again, not for my sake, but for the sake of those depending upon me. That plays in with the theme here, doesn't it? Nearby stood some self-righteous members of the congregation who watched closely to see what YASHA'UA would do. But he, knowing their thoughts, called them over and said, let me know your views concerning the keeping of the Sabbath. Should good be done when it would be uncharitable to leave it undone? And they said, we abide by the Torah, as it is interpreted for us by those knowing better than we. You know, the sad thing, too, is that when you come into the Torah camp, like this answer is still given a lot. I mean, you get very self-righteous people in there, and they will interpret the Torah. They know better, right? They know better than the Torah itself, really. I mean, they know it so well. Yeah, everybody else is wrong about it, and they're right. And you know, when you actually get to when you kind of understand these people, they're not really interested in keeping it themselves. They're kind of just policing other people out there. YASHA'UA became angry and was hurt in his heart for their hard-heartedness and wrongful interpretation of the Torah were indications of their spiritual apathy. So he healed the man's arm. The self-righteous see no wrong in themselves, only in others. So there's your indication right there if you're dealing with the self, or if you are a self-righteous person. So let's not think about other people right now. And just ask the question, how many times do you go around, thinking about how wrong everybody, on chat rooms and, in different communities, social media groups, and you just need to go out there and argue with them and let them know how wrong they are and how right you are. And it could be, virtue signaling, right? You are moral because they are so wrong. So let me read this again. This is a great definition of a self-righteous person. The self-righteous see no wrong in themselves, only in others. And maybe I could come up with a better definition of this. I can't believe I just said that, but I would word it something like in a virtue signaling sense, that you boost up your own righteousness by the wrongness of others, right? So that's why you focus. You're a glass half empty person. You put such a focus on how evil everyone else is. It could be just you put your focus on how evil the government is, right? They're just so evil. Just evil. They're just evil all the time. They can do nothing right. and that, somehow boost up, how good you are. Somehow it doesn't at all. I mean, you could be just as evil as them. I know a lot of red pillars, I think, are just evil people. And they're red pillars. They're truthers, and yet they're just evil. Or I should say self-righteous. Maybe that's a better phrase to use. They're just self-righteous people. And they interpret all things to accord with their own convenience. That's I guess that would be the number B in Webster's dictionary there for a self-righteous person. Book of the Illuminators, chapter 11. All right. So for the closing exercise tonight, we're gonna. I don't think I'm gonna make it all the way to the blasphemy of the Spirit, which is fine because maybe I can put more focus on that next week. Mark of the Beast, 666, and I've given this case before. I'm going to give it again tonight for the closer on why I believe the mark of the beast is not keeping the Sabbath. And, I spent my whole life worried that, the mark of the beast was going to come, and what was that going to be like for me? How hard would it be to, and I see all these people on the internet, social media circles, and we got to warn people they're going to be deceived. The church is going to be deceived. And then he talks about the Sabbath. They're like, no, the Sabbath, like Jesus, I don't have to keep the Sabbath. I'm like, okay, well, it sounds like you're kind of deceived too. You're so worried about other people being deceived. Maybe we all should just be concerned if we're deceived. Maybe that should be the concern, right? Like point the finger at us. Let's not be self-righteous. Let's not base our morality on other people's immorality. Let's just work on ourselves first. Take that log out of our own eye. So we see here that the famous passage, Revelation chapter 13. Let's read this together. I am so looking forward to Pamela coming up with her paleo version of Revelation. And he made for them all, the great ones and the small ones, the rich ones and the poor ones, the slaves and the freed ones, a sign on his right hand or on his forehead. Now we want to focus here on the right hand and the forehead, obviously, that no one is able to buy or sell unless he has this sign on his hand or on his forehead. So that's it right there. So we know that the mark of the beast is a sign on his hand or on his forehead. I'm going to show you that this isn't some exoteric thing. Like it's not a chip. It's not a vaccine. It's not the next technology. It's not Neuralink. It's not the next thing down the pipeline. Guys, it's always the next thing down the pipeline. I remember in 2020, everyone's like, this is it. This is the mark of the beast. And who's saying that now? Like how many people went around saying that? And they're not even held accountable to that anymore. And they were, we should be saying things like, this is unhealthy and it will destroy you and mess you up and kill you. And, what's funny is that the anti-Torah people, they've got nothing on there. They have no high ground on this because they're claiming that Messiah made all things clean. And it's like, well, wait a second. Now you're saying this is unclean. I thought Messiah blessed this. They're like, no. Well, it's like, well, you got to make up your mind, dude, because if he made all food clean, then you can't say that we can't take this injection because it's blessed, right? Obviously, that's not the case. And obviously, Torah is a document about being clean and healthy, right? So we can actually make a very good case for why you should not put these things in your body. Very good case. All right. And there, who has wisdom, number of, it is the number of man, and the amount is found 666. You guys know all that. All right. So let's look at the sign on his right hand and his forehead. And let's compare this, right? Let's take what I call the Revelation challenge. This is where people get themselves into trouble. And they're taught this. It's a bad habit. They don't even think about it. People are taught that they could just read Revelation. It's this kind of singular book off by itself, way out there, and you just figure it out. You just come up with some new definition, translation, whatever, some theory, and you figure it out. And it's like, no, how about we just cross-reference everything? Let's try that. That's a neat game. Let's see if you don't know what something means in Revelation, let's just see if we can cross-reference it in the Torah, because it's probably there. So this is what we read in, this is YASHA'UA, or Exodus, chapter 31. Reading from Pamela's Paleo translation. And YAHWH, the ever-living, he declared toward Al-Mashahad to say, And you will set words in order towards the sons of YASHA'UA to say, certainly, my Sabbaths you will guard, for this is a powerful sign between me and between you. Now, I didn't make a note of this when I read Hebrew Revelation, but it says sign there. That's why I use Hebrew Revelation. Now, we know the mark of the beast, but a mark is the same thing as a sign, right? It is a sign or a mark. So you could say here in Hebrew or Paleo Exodus that it is a powerful mark between me and between you. For a generation circling to generation for acquiring knowledge. Skipping down here. No, actually, I'm not going to skip. I'm just going to read the whole thing. For I, YAHWH, the ever living, as setting you apart, and you shall guard the Sabbath, for it is established, powerful, and set apart to you. Any who profanes, wounds, destroys, or breaks her shall be executed. Executed. And you guys have heard me say this many times. I don't believe this is just referring to this life. I believe that when capital punishment is referring to the next life. For all that fashion in her any prescribed service, especially the work of the artisan, that Nephash shall be cut off from the midst of his people. Now, we know how Messiah is obviously properly translating this, right? 6 days he may fashion and prescribe work or service, but on the seventh, Sabbath, his Sabbath of rest, is set apart to YAHWH. All who fashions work or service on this day, dying, he shall be executed. Between me and between the sons of YASHA'UA, this shall be a sign or mark to time of long duration. For 6 days, YAHWH fashioned Hashamayam and Ha'aratz, and in the seventh he rested and took a breather. Ezekiel 20:12 says this, and I haven't got into the hands and the head yet. I will. But we can see it contrasted here. So there is a mark of the beast and there is a mark of Yah, right? We can figure that out so far. The mark of the beast allows you to buy and sell on, I'm going to say a certain day. People say it's just any day, but when we cross-reference it, we know there's a certain day where you are not to buy and sell. All right, so let's keep reading. This is Ezekiel 20:12. Moreover, I also gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign or a mark between me and them, that they may know that I am YAHWH that sanctify them. It's pretty scary, guys, that none of the other commandments are like a mark or a sign between us and God. YAHWH, but the Sabbath, and it's the one of the 10 that has been removed. Pretty scary thought. Deuteronomy 6:4-9 says this, Hear, O Yasharel, YAHWH, Eloheinu, YAHWH is one, or Echad. And thou shalt love YAHWH Eloheinu with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sit in thine house, and when thou walk by the way, and when thou lie down, and when thou rise up. So just like we're like, tell people this all day, night and day, meals, at work, whenever. And thou shalt bind them for a sign or a mark between thy hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes. So there it is right there. So there is the mark of Yah to contrast the mark of the beast on the forehead, right here, your pineal gland, third eye, whatever you want to call it, right here and on thy hand, right here. And thou shalt write them upon the posts of thy house and on thy gates. And we know what this sign is. It is the Sabbath day. It's really all his commands, really. And we need to take this deeper, that his Sabbaths also include his feast days. All right, capiche, got it. But I'm just trying to work right now for those of you out there. If there's anyone watching this, there's somebody watching this that needs to hear this, that needs to start keeping his Sabbath days. Here's another passage that comes from Psalms of Solomon 15. It talks about the mark of God. For the mark of Elohim is upon the righteous, that they may be saved. All right, so this is how you're saved. Of according to this, this isn't thus saith Noel. This is just thus saith the Bible, or I guess in this case, Psalms of Solomon. You have to have the mark of Elohim to be saved, to be righteous. Famine and sword and pestilence shall be far from the righteous, for they shall flee away from the pious as men pursued in war, but they shall pursue sinners and overtake them. And they that do lawlessness or Torahlessness shall not escape the judgment of Elohim. As by enemies experienced in war shall they be overtaken, for the mark of destruction is upon their forehead. This is amazing, guys, because the Psalms of Solomon 15 gives us both contrasting marks in one passage. This is what links it together with Revelation. For the mark of destruction is upon their forehead, and the inheritance of sinners is destruction and darkness, and their iniquity shall pursue them unto Sheol beneath. Here's what the Gospel of Thomas, saying 27, says. And YASHA'UA said, if you do not fast from the world, you will not find the kingdom. If you do not celebrate the Sabbath as a Sabbath, you will not know the Father. Gospel of Thomas 27. So I'm going to give one objection here. We'll close on this thought tonight. And I get this all the time. And this is what I call like Barney Fife moment, a Don Knotts shooting yourself in the foot, where you have this body of scripture, the 99% out there, and it tells you to do one thing, that conditionally, if you are not obedient, this and this and this, will happen to you. You will choose the curse. And they're like, I don't care about any of that. I don't care about it because I got this one verse right here, baby. There's one verse, and it disproves the rest of the Bible. It's like, posh, just shot yourself in the foot. You just now disproved the Bible. Good job, Sherlock. But the bigger thing here is that rather than arguing whether it disproves the rest of Scripture, is like maybe like you are the cherry picker here. Just maybe, just a wild hunch. I mean, call me crazy, but if you're finding one verse that you are using to define in a certain way, and we already saw YASHA'UA saying this is what people do, the unrighteous, right? That basically frees you from having to listen to the rest of the Bible. Maybe your interpretation of that passage is more of the problem than the passage itself. Case in point, Hebrews 4. I love this passage. People are like, well, no, Jesus is my Sabbath rest. You don't get it because I rest just all the time. I'll ask people like, well, okay, so you don't keep Sabbaths? Like, no, I don't need to rest on Sabbath. I got Jesus. He's my Sabbath rest. I'm like, so like, when do you, like, you don't rest? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you sleep 8 hours a night. You get like 4 hours sleep. Well, what does this look like? They'll usually end up calling me a jackass because they're like, they know where I'm going with this, but they don't like the answer. But this is what it actually says in Hebrews 4 right here. For it is much on this day, YASHA'UA rested. So this day, there is a day that he rested on. A day, not like Monday through Friday from like 12 to 1 in the afternoon. There's a specific day, a whole day that he rested on. And it says he would not have spoken of a different day. So if YASHA'UA is speaking about that he is your rest, come to me and, I will be your rest. He's not speaking of any other day than the day he rested on. I wonder what day that is. Well, we just read verse 8. This is what it says in verse 9. There remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of Elohim. Okay, so I'm just assuming. I don't want to assume, but I am assuming that this is the same. I mean, the Sabbath day, like the 10 Commandments. There remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of Elohim. People say, well, this is one of the big excuses they use. Well, Jesus never said to keep the Sabbath. I'm just like, I mean, we got the teachings right here. These are the same people that quote Paul left and right. We got right here. They're clarifying for you that he did not imply any other day. There remains a Sabbath rest for the people of Elohim. For anyone who enters Elohim's rest also rests from their works. So they just define it for you. The mark of Yah. Just as Elohim did from his. I wonder what I wonder. I mean, maybe there's like a story somewhere in the Bible. I mean, I didn't source it here. I'm hoping maybe you guys can think about it. Like we could all come together as a group. Like what day what is there a story like in the Bible where God rested from his work on a specific day? I can't even think about it. I don't know. It's in there somewhere. Maybe if I scour the pages of scriptures, I'll finally come upon it. Maybe someone could write in the comment section. Let us therefore make every effort to enter that rest. Like make every effort to enter that rest, that there is no other rest. It is the only rest that Messiah kept, which just so happened to be the rest that the Father rested from his works on, so that no one will perish by following their example of disobedience. So if you are not keeping that Sabbath rest, you are a disobedient person who will perish. That is a scary thought, guys. There's two marks: mark of the beast, mark of YAH. And the thing is with the mark of the beast is that it's not some prophecy for some future generation that they have to worry, 2,000 years in the future, they have to worry about some technology, through, Silicon Valley or wherever, whoever, Elon Musk or whoever's developing it. It's like, no, like, it's not about being afraid of computer. Remember, it used to be barcodes, man. It's true. It is. There is a 666 system out there. No doubt about that. But it's on barcodes, right? You got www, you got all this stuff. It's everywhere, guys. I get it. There is the beast system out there. But obviously, I think we have all scanned barcodes. I think we all own things that are scanned by barcodes. We got the RF chips. We've got, we're on the internet. If you're watching me right now, you're on the internet, right? I think we can all understand that. And it's always the next technology, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. It's like, no, just have the mark of YAH, guys. Just keep his Sabbath days. Rest in it. Make every effort. Let me just state this again. And I intend this every much for myself. All right. Make every effort to enter that rest. Make that your goal. Now, when Elohim did rest from his work, remember now, YASHA'UA has clarified this for us, that any work that he, it was a work of an artisan, or any work that he rested from was for, maybe you could say, for his personal gain, right? For the expansion of his cosmos, right? He did not create anything new. He did not add anything, but he would have tended to his creation. If there was an ox that, a poor little lamb that, rolled over down a hill and he's stuck on his back, he's like, okay, well, I'm not going to wait till Sunday to go help this poor little lamb. I'm going to do some work and pick it up, right? So we're going to end there tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Oh, no, actually, we're not. I didn't even get to the 10 Commandments. I didn't even read that. This is one more thing that I ask people all the time. I'm like, so Torah is done away with? They're like, yeah, it's done away with. 10 Commandments? Is that? Oh, no. You're supposed to keep the 10 Commandments. I'm like, all right, okay. So what about the fourth commandment? They're like, well, which one is that? And they're kind of, twitching their eyes because they're like, oh my goodness, I don't know the commands that they claim they keep. And I'm like, well, the fourth commandment is the Sabbath. They're like, oh, I keep that. I'm like, well, how do you keep that? And they're like, well, Jesus is my rest, right? We just went through that. I'm like, okay, well, what if we actually read like the fourth commandment? Because it's very specific. It's more specific than people actually think. And it's scary to show that I don't know that they have read it. So this is what it says. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. Keep in mind too, is that I see this command, guys, is that 6 days, it's not just resting when it is actually working 6 days. It's not saying you can't retire, but even when you retire, you're still doing things. You got to maintain the house. You got to, you got to do things, right? You got to cook and clean and, garden and things like that. You're still doing an expansion project. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of YAHWAH your Elohim. In it you shall not do any work. But this is where people kind of they kind of drift out here. They stop paying attention. They put the earbuds in their ears and they start listening to the ball game at this point. You shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male or your female servant, or your cattle, or your sojourner who stays with you. For in 6 days YAHWH made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore YAHWH blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. So and this goes into the buying and selling, right? The idea is that nobody's working for you. Now you can't force other people out there not to work. That's beyond your control. Like you no guilt there. Okay. But within your gates or anything that you are doing on the Sabbath, you are not causing anybody to work for you, right? You are not paying anybody for their labor or anything like that. We're going to end there tonight. I hope you guys, I hope this was a blessing for you. That is my prayer. And I hope it was, convicting for the right person. Now, I'm going to point out, I'm going to say this for those of you listening right now. I don't know how many people here know Hunter Tylo. She is back in the day, she was a soap opera star. Actually, People magazine twice named her the most beautiful person on earth. If you can imagine that. That's crazy for anyone to be named that. But she is, I'm going to be bringing her on this Thursday. And she was on, Bold and the Beautiful? And I think she was on All My Children. She was different soap operas like that through the years. Was in it for a very long time, well over 20 years, I believe, maybe going to 30 years. And she fled Hollywood. She left it, and she's coming out of hiding. And I'm going to be interviewing her and talking about her experiences, and really just handing her the microphone and listening to her and her convictions to come to the Torah and why it is YAH's instructions in righteous living. I think it's going to be a really great conversation. Jenna's going to be on with me. We're going to be interviewing her. But like I said, it's mostly going to be me sitting there. I'm going to shut up for once and as much as possible and just let her talk. Come by, guys, and give your support. This is a big thing because, we're not going to go deeply esoteric. I don't think we're going to we're not going to just get all crazy on you. But this is going to be hopefully a ministry. And this is what we are here at Tuck, right? And we want to be a ministry to all sorts of individuals. And this will be a ministry to her crowd, her fan base. She has a very large fan base. So show up, give your support, wear the full armor of God, because we will need it, and I'll need all hands on deck in the admin, the mod chat on the side. But have fun in the comments, guys. Love you guys. We'll do this again next Friday, Yah willing. Come by in about an hour, and we'll do the Tuck roundtable. And remind everybody that if you're like, oh man, I missed out on that, and I'm not even signed into Discord, or it's too late, whatever. You know what? Plan to do it next week. Just come by Discord, sign up, form an account if you need to. Come in, introduce yourself. Come on in, and, Q&A time. You don't even have to open your mouth. You don't even have to speak to the microphone. You can just listen. We have great conversations. Looking forward to it. Love you guys. Good night, everybody.